All right, Algebra 1B students, welcome to part 2 of lesson 11.6, which is about indirect variation. One thing I want to go over before we get into indirect variation and what we're going to deal with in this video, I want to review direct variation, because in this video we're going to decide between direct or indirect variation among two variables, x and y. When we have direct variation, that means that the ratio of the x and y variable is always equal to some constant. Okay, so direct variation is like this. So y divided by x is equal to some number k, or y is equal to k times x. Anything that you can write as y is equal to k times x is known as direct variation. Okay? And then indirect variation, we know that it's kind of the opposite of that. Indirect variation, y times x is equal to k, which means that y is equal to k divided by x, not k times x. Okay, so direct variation you can write as y equals some number times x, where x and y are your two variables. Indirect variation, y is equal to k divided by x, which means y times x is equal to that k value. So we're then going to transition and start looking at how do we decide between direct and indirect variation for a certain table of values. Okay? So we're given a couple of table of values here, and we're asked, does the data, or do the data in each table represent direct variation or inverse variation? And then they want us to write an equation to model this situation. Okay? So we look at letter A. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, if I divide the y by the x, y divided by x, does that give me the same number every time? Or is it if I multiply the two together that I get the same number every time? So if we look at letter A, this first line here, if I try to multiply them all together, 3 times negative 15 is negative 45. That's if I multiply. Can be a big dot. Multiply. 4 times negative 20 is negative 80. 5 times negative 25 is negative 125. These are not the same, so this is not an indirect variation, because remember, indirect variation means multiplying the x and y together will always give the same number. So let's try division. If I do y divided by x, going this way, negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. Negative 20 divided by 4 is negative 5. Negative 25 divided by 5 is negative 5. So what we can see is that, yes, all of these are the same. So then this is direct variation. If dividing is the same, direct variation. D with D. Dividing means direct. Direct variation here. And then when I do this y divided by x, every time I'm getting the same k value, which is negative 5 here. Okay? The other way to write this equation is y equals negative 5 times x, if I do it that way. Okay? So y divided by x is negative 5, or y equals negative 5 times x. I would like these three pieces in your answers in your practice problems. 1, 2, and 3. Two different equations and a direct or indirect variation. Okay? Now if we look at letter B here, I will try multiplying them again. We'll do m for multiply this time. If I multiply here, 2 times 9 is 18. If I multiply here, 4 times 4.5. 4 times 4.5. That's 18. And if I multiply here, 6 times 3, that's 18. All of those are the same. So this is indirect variation. Because multiplying was all the same. And what I got when I multiplied my y value times my x value every time was 18. So my k value is 18. I can also write that as y equals 18 divided by x. Okay, so again, I got my three pieces, indirect variation, this form of the equation, and this form. Okay? So your job is to decide between indirect and direct by multiplying and dividing the x and y numbers, seeing which one is the same all the time, then writing equation. I would like you to try that for these two, A and B. Here, do these data, or do the data in each of these tables represent direct or indirect variation? And then write me two different equations for those tables. Pause the video, take a look there, then come on back and I'll show you what we should get. All right, letter A here was definitely direct variation. Because when I divide y divided by x, I get -3 every time, which means y equals -3 times x. Over here in letter B, it's the opposite. This is indirect variation. Because when I multiply x times y, or sorry, y times x every time, I get -48. Which means y equals -48 divided by x. Okay? Now, the only other thing I'm going to ask you to do in your practice problem sets is think about real life situations and decide if these are direct or indirect variation and explain. Okay? So we might have a situation where we're renting a boat, a bunch of friends heading out to the lake, and the cost of the boat is $120. And we split it among several friends. Okay? So we're taking this $120 and splitting it among several friends. So let's think about our x and y variables here. X could be number of friends. And y could be cost per friend. Or cost per person. What everybody's going to owe. Because we know total is going to be 120 every time. Right? Now, if I wanted to find the cost per person, that y value, I believe I should take 120 and divide it by my x variable. Right? 120 total divided by the number of friends, y equals 120 divided by x. This type of equation we should recognize as indirect variation. Indirect variation. Because if I multiply both sides here by x, times x, it goes away, times x, I get that y times x is equal to 120. The number of friends I bring and the cost for those friends, by multiplying together, that had better equal 120, or I'm going to be short some dollars, and I'm going to end up in prison for petty larceny. Letter B, this other situation that you might run into, we are downloading several movies for $14.99 each. Again, we just need to think about what are our x and y variables here. X could be a number of movies. And y could be total cost. How much it's going to cost me here. I'm pretty sure if I want to find the total cost, I should take $14.99 and multiply it by the number of movies. Now, y equals k times x, that is a direct variation equation, because if I divide both sides by x, I get this. Y divided by x equals $14.99. Okay? So I've decided that this voting example is indirect variation, and I've decided that the entertainment example is direct variation. My explanation, I think, is sufficient, just by listing my variables here and then writing an equation here. That's good enough explanation for me. Okay, I would like you to try that with these two situations. Buying sweaters at a store for $35 each, walking 5 miles each day, speed and time spent walking each day. Decide if they are direct or indirect by listing out what possible variables you could have, and then deciding how are they related to each other. Pause the video, take a look there. Come on back, I'll show you what we should get. Letter A here is direct variation because the total cost is equal to 35 times the number of sweaters, or total cost divided by number of sweaters is always going to be 35 for each one. Okay, letter B, this is indirect because speed times time always has to equal distance, which is 5 miles. Speed times time always is equal to distance. Direct, indirect. If you have questions about direct versus indirect variation, deciding between the two, please make a note to ask me in class tomorrow. Otherwise, that's all I have for you. Have a wonderful night.